completely different device today. I don't have my computer. Yesterday's show, um, I I was playing music and it didn't play. Okay, very sorry about that. Very sorry about that. Um, I can play the music that's in my computer and I go through StreamYard. Again, I'm very new to all this. I like doing my show outside and I can get more animated. But today I'm doing it inside and I'm going to do a recap over of a few things that are going on. Um, what I'm writing is the novelization for a television series. That's the entire point, is to get a show made. It is the ultimate delivery vehicle of music, uh, conflict, drama, and things that we want to. Boy, look at that chicken neck. Jesus, turkey neck, I mean to say. Jeez, look at that thing. I don't know what's going on there. But, so, right, it's the ultimate delivery of all this information. For me, it would be combining The Sopranos with Not Fade Away. Almost, right? I mean, you might as well just say it. But there is the element of Walter's life, and you have these films that Walter makes, and the films vacillate within in and out of the 1980s because they're all on cassette, they're all being shown on TV. Like the films, uh, when I was coming up on TV, you would have to wait 5 years to see a film. Once it was released in the theaters, it would take about 5 years. So a lot of stuff that I watched was stuff from the 1940s, the 1950s. Okay. So just to kind of recap a lot of what's going on, I developed this idea while I was here in Los Angeles. And if you want to step back in time, um, 2017 and 2018, they were running an operation on this right here. This coincided with a divorce that I went through. I believe it was known by certain people that numerous people were going to self-harm. And this was 2017 and 2018. I believe that's why Frances Haugen's testimony kind of brushed over it. I think when people like Mike Flynn and Frances Haugen actually talk, I think we're expected to extract information from these people and decipher it ourselves. I think that's what we have to do with philosophy books. I think that's what we have to do with religious texts. I think that's up to us, okay? And so similarly, right, when you're doing the it's called the eisegesis, or the exegesis rather, I meant to say, right? So when the exegesis, you're pulling these phrases out and you're looking at the possibly even the isosophy or the gematria of the phrase, because everybody loves this kind of perfect number, these perfect numbers, and then you're extrapolating what the etymology of the word is, the definition, into the etymology, and the etymology goes into just putting out these vibrations out of your mouth from the word itself. So this goes into like what you give is what you get, what goes in comes out, etc., etc. What you put in is what you're going to get out. That's why it's so important that we understand the indoctrination process. And part of that indoctrination is this. This is all confirmation bias. So we talk about legacy media, and I was making fun of Dan Rather interviewing one of the Beastie Boys. I mean, it was just, and his wife who's in Bikini Kill, like what? You understand? I mean, it's just bizarre. They still try to hold on to these legacy guys like Dan Rather and Ted Koppel. Ted Koppel is interviewing Henry Kissinger, like he's going to ever ask him any hard hitting questions. Why'd you drop the bombs? Well, when you grow up, since it's the era of the crowning of the child, if you're not a child, maybe you should save that childlike behavior for the playground out here, okay? And when it comes to your studies and this confirmation bias right here, you should understand things on more of an adult level and know that now we are all Dan Rather and Ted Koppel being limited hangout and indoctrinated by this. This news cycle is moving at such a schizophrenic pace, it's insane. I can't believe that this Obama being homosexual thing is going on right now. This is, right? What I'm seeing is a lot of stuff from 2017 being played out all over again. Okay? And again, it's just they keep recycling this stuff. Okay? And how much you're going to emotionally invest in the death of his cook. I mean, what's going to come out next? The fact that him and his cook were having an affair and now he's dead. You know, anything could happen. And so we can see the office of the presidency, which I said that I held in high esteem, and I think most Gen Xers and boomers kind of have. You know, a lot of people do, and you should, I think. Well, you could see this is just completely degraded. I mean, it's degraded down to tabloid fodder. And that's what we have. We have this tabloid fodder future, and that these childlike behaviors are going to be people that you're not going to be able to even have a conversation with because they're so indoctrinated through this. They're getting their talking points like Dan Rather and, you know, this legacy media morons, right? When they show up to the studio, they're getting their talking points, you know, handed to them, so they're limited hangout. They're not using their deliberation and their resolve. Okay, so this is key. You have to deliberate this stuff, and then you have to come up with a resolution about it. You have to say, you know what, ultimately, I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw out anything coming to me from Media Deep Blue. And I feel bad yesterday because my songs didn't play. I feel really bad about that, but there was a McDonald's commercial that played during it. So again, when it comes to my shows, you can fast forward. I appreciate you watching. I do live off the EBT menu. I do believe that the stock market will crash, like Michael Burry said. I'm the only person talking about this. Okay, my show is really unique. I come at you with a unique perspective, and I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon. I'm just not. I hope this stuff is working today. I told some guy about the BC era. He thought it was funny. He had gray hair, so I knew I could get a laugh out of him. We were talking about memorizing phone numbers, right? We used to have to memorize people's phone number, and you would have them memorized. It's no big deal. I make fun of the numbers because I'm not really a numbers cruncher guy. What I do is I use the left side of my brain in order to tackle something on the right. Okay, and I don't think many people make this distinction. I think stuff that satiates you on the right side of your brain, I mean, I'm talking outside of this, where you have music and art and literature and movies, that it's all here. Here we have it. It's prepackaged for you. Here it is. Right, here it is. Okay, you don't need to go anywhere else. You don't need to think anything else. We have it for you right here. And it's going into our news media as well. Like I said, the schizophrenic information that's coming at you at this incredible pace, I mean, it's really just insane. And like I said, I'm not really interested in anything from 2017, but look at what's happening. Seth Rich and gay Obama, right? Just keep bringing this stuff up. I mean, how much are you willing to emotionally invest in it? Like when I was watching things on the alt-right, they showed Michelle Obama with a cock. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they were showing. Really trashy tabloid stuff. I mean, the way the schizophrenic future is moving, who knows? Maybe, that will be true. I mean, I don't know. But I just find it very bizarre. I also find it bizarre that I'm referring to my ex-wife as a slope-shouldered manatee of a fuddy-duddy, and all of a sudden there's this media deep blue story about homosexual manatees. I mean, just, you know, this is what people are building their shows on. They're building their shows on these media deep blue stories that don't mean anything. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take a step back and say, and question, like, where are we going with this? Right? And I also want to work on my life's work, and that's part of what I do here. Okay? I talk about a lot of ideas. I think yesterday's pitch, I just call him a pitch. I'm a son of a pitch. Shut up. It's funny. To a boomer somewhere. Are you out there? I think yesterday's was really pretty good. I think, you know, this whole central casting here, I think once these strikes are over, it was really funny. I saw these people at a hotel getting ready to strike again. I'm like, was the strike over? Because they kind of left. The people in my area, I go down Pico, so I see the people at Fox. They're still out there. Okay, Fox Studios. Okay, they're still out there. They're still picketing. All right. So, you know, maybe once this is over, I think something like LA 2039, which is just a working title. I think something like that could actually, you could start that right away. Like I said, the same thing with Golden Years. And I think those are my top ideas. And take a look at Michel Gondry, and then take a look at, I think, the French Dispatch. And I'm very sorry, but I don't have the money to see these films. But I think you have these tableaus and this moving sets, these movable sets, that's easy to do now. I believe that was in Wes Anderson's film prior to Asteroid City. Okay, and I think guys like him, they actually go into the archive of some of these old French directors, and they look and they see, you could see that with the French Dispatch and, right, some of his other projects, you could see kind of he's getting this. And Wes Anderson himself had said it during an interview that he goes into an old French film director's archive and they pull stuff out of there, right? So just to get ideas and stuff like that. So what I do is I come on here and I pitch my ideas, but I don't want to die in the streets. And in case you don't know, I was victimized past tense, and this was a MK Ultra style victimization. People can't believe that I'm not dead. They thought for sure they could get me to self-harm, and it came through here. They ran Q-ops where you question your sexuality. Okay, I thought I was gonna die. I was scared to death, and I went down to Florida. I was there with my quote-unquote wife, and she knew that they were going to do this, and that's why I bluffed her, just to see what would happen, because I knew something was going on. And my entire time in the state of New York, I was being tortured just whenever somebody felt like it through this device. It's crushing neurologically. It crushes you. And they were coming 100% through the Facebook app. And these people, they're cops, and they have whatever, you know, right? And they run, quote unquote, run with a set, so it's all plausible deniability, right? So my wife was using it, my drummer was using it, that's for sure. I had a person from some ex-girlfriend of mine's old neighborhood calling me on the phone, so she knew what was going on. Why they would do something like that, I don't know. I didn't cross any of these people. I think people have the tendency to groupthink. I think people who groupthink are just morons and idiots. We come into this world as individuals, unless you're born as a twin or a triplet. Okay, and you're responsible for yourself. And I'm not going to let anything define me as a person except for me and my work as in the creative field. And that's what I'm here to do. And I was supposed to come out here, and then they had the COVID. I was supposed to come out here 2 years ago. But while this was all going on, I'm like, man, I got to get out of here. I didn't know what was going on. but I know for a fact that David Strouder's behavior, 2017, Mark Fisher, uh, I still haven't found out how he actually self-harmed, but Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, Anthony Bourdain, and Kate Spade all hung themselves. And while this op was going on, I was speaking very poetically into my Facebook app specifically. Okay? Um, and then a bunch of people started treating me like shit. Before I knew it, I was back in Detroit and I was surrounded by a bunch of arrogant fucking pricks. And again, what's writ large right here? It's all holier than thou. I'm better. I'm a better person than this, right? So this is the trick of the media. The media is sending you all this confirmation bias bullshit. Once you start clicking, once you begin clicking and it starts realizing what the kind of stuff that you want, it'll begin feeding you this stuff. And so an interesting template would be to get two fresh people, okay? One of them on the right and one on the left. You get brand new phones. They've never had a phone before. And you just let them start clicking away, have it for whatever, 6 months or a year. And then you turn it over and you see what kind of stuff they're getting. What kind of information has this person been getting? And while you're looking at it through this device, right, through the weaponized amount of hertz, that sometimes is H-U-R-T-S, right, H-E-R-T-Z. That's cycles per second. That is in a frequency, okay, and they say that 432, I think it is. Even John Lennon talked about this a little bit. 432 frequency is supposed to be the most soothing, calming. That's what your music's supposed to be played at, right? But a play on the word Google is Google, Googol, and that is 10 to the 100th power. And when your device is 10 to the 100th power, that means it's weaponized. And that's how they were coming at me. And this is 2017 and 2018. Okay? And again, this is, and then they ran Q-ops down in Florida. And I got some chick calling me on the phone through the Facebook app, of course. Gordon, what's the matter? Are you questioning your sexuality? And I'm like, I don't know what's happened. I was so afraid I went to go get a gun. That's what I did. I went to go buy a gun. I was afraid for my life. And look at what would have happened. So I'm here to remind you that Whitey Bulger and Ted Kaczynski were both victimized by the MK Ultra program. Okay, I'm not either one of these men. Okay, I'm my own man. And I think you fucked up, and I think you waited a little bit too long. I think that they thought that they could get me. I think that they thought because of my previous record, where I was actually living like a true investigative journalist, that's why I didn't care if I went to jail. I'm like, oh, I'll have another story to write about. Who am I reading? I'm reading Eddie Bunker. I'm reading Hubert Selby Jr. I'm reading Nelson Elgren. I'm reading about this lowlife, okay? So slowly over time, right, this lowlife kind of dissipates. When I first moved to New York City, like I said, there were still men's hotels, and that's what they call flop houses, and that's where I would stay sometimes, you know, and I've slept outside, but you don't sleep very good. I never did. Sleeping outside, you don't sleep good. You sleep with one eye open. You never get any sleep. That was key to this. This was preventing me from getting sleep, and it occurred non-stop from the day my wife walked out the door down in Florida, 2017. It was around somewhere between July, and she had been using it, this right here, your smartphone, she had been using this device on me for possibly 7 years, the entire time that I was there. And this is how psychotic I believe she was. And she could easily just turn around and say, no, Gordon, you're psychotic. Look, he has an arrest. Look at David Strouder, guys, and look at me. Okay? I think people have a problem with people who have a bit of a wee bit of the old Southern African. I think they do. I think African Americans have a problem with it, and white people have a problem with it. I don't know why. What do you care? Okay, you go by what your culture is, and like I said, you know, I dealt with problems with sexuality. I was sexualized as a child. This comes up all the time in my life, constantly, nonstop. Are you black? Are you gay? Are you black? Are you? It's just like once a month from the age of about 12. Okay? So I hear this shit my entire life. So, I think it's just really sad. I think that's part of what they're trying to say when they ask a person how they identify. It's because they're giving you the chance to identify how you want to, right? So I'm not part of the black culture. I never was. And I'm certainly not part of the white culture. But, I'm part of the American punk rock hardcore culture. And I just don't have all the tattoos. Because why? Because that became a uniform. And that became a cliche. Okay? So I'm not that either. And so as time went on, I got out of, going to punk rock shows. I just don't go anymore. It's like going to the bar. I'm up in WeHo. There's tons of bars. All kinds of people go to these bars. I don't know what you want to call them. I'm not a bureaucrat. They're just called people, and they're called Americans for the most part. And there's tourists. They sleep with whoever they sleep with. I don't know why it's such a big deal who somebody fucking sleeps with, but whatever. Apparently it is. If you watch the CBGB's movie, they had somebody who wanted to lick Iggy Pop's belly button. Iggy Pop was played by the late Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for Alanis Morissette and the Foo Fighters, okay, who actually worked with Iggy Pop on one of his records, one of his later records, okay. And they wanted to lick his belly button. I mean, this is just completely absurd. Okay, when I was targeted on the streets, and I was in Las Vegas when I was writing Two-Legged Animal, it was by bureaucrats working with a predator. And they're working to try to get something over on you. I'm not sure why. Not really sure why. And then when I was down in Florida, they did the same thing, but they did it through this. So I grew up around LGBT people. I love LGBT people. They're some of the greatest people. I mean, like, that's why it's like you can't qualify somebody for what they are, whether they're black or gay or whatever it is. Like, if that's all you see, then why are you even talking about this person? Because you're supposed to see beyond these superficial things, right? So, if that's all a person is to you, then just move the fuck on, right? It just really doesn't make any sense to me. Why it's getting my ire, I'm not really sure. I think I'm a little mad because of yesterday's show. I tried to play music for you guys, and it was a disaster. But again, my shows go on. I will continue to do my shows. Nothing's going to stop me. I literally have to die. I want to work. I'm trying to work. But I have to go through the system, and I have to do everything, how it needs to be done, quote unquote, legally. So I'm not really sure why I was targeted, but it does have something to do with my ex-wife. And when I didn't die in 2017 and 2018, like Chester Bennington, and listen, I'm bringing these people up, but you don't know how many people that you don't know also fell victim to this inauthentic behavior. And when Frances Haugen was talking about it, she said that it was schoolgirls. Okay, well, that immediately takes you out of the range of possibility that it's Chris Cornell and people like that. Well, it didn't take me out of there, but it takes the audience out of there. And I'm not saying it's by design, but that's her limited view. That's her, right? Her limited hangout. That's what she knew about. She's talking about what she knew. Right? That's why I don't blame the individual. Why? Because we're all cogs in a wheel. And this is what I tried to tell you before. Me as getting work as an actor, listen to this. Here I am. I'm being repped by Don Buchwald. I got a local commercial. I got 2 local commercials. One's for Siemens Furniture. One's for Olympia Limousines. I have a commercial playing in Japan for Olympic suits. A Japanese suit commercial. I'm in it. I'm featured in. I play a mugger, but I have 3 commercials playing. I did Cornberry, which is about the first trans governor who dressed like a woman in 18th century New York. It's called Cornberry. I've already done Bent, which is a play about homosexuality in Nazi Germany. I jumped at the chance of that. It was in Richmond, Michigan, and I'm glad I did the play. Okay? This was in the 90s, guys. This is what I'm trying to remind you. Okay? I also did Ghost Dance of the Levites, which was at the same theater that Chaz Palminteri did A Bronx Tale. And De Niro saw it and said, let's make a movie out of it. Okay, that's just 3. And I did more. I did a play with Lee Sobel. I was doing independent films at NYU. And around 1995, I went into the Cunningham agency. They asked to see me, and I saw some girl that I knew. She's like, hey, did you want to get work? We have an acting gig. And I said, you know what? I'm working on a Space Hog video that day, so I'm booked. And all I had was my pager. Okay? In that 10-year time, I got to meet Francis Ford Coppola. I worked with his son. I was in the same room. That's all I could really say. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say I was like besties with anybody. With Nicolas Cage, Demi Moore, Tracy Lords. Okay, just to name a few. Seymour Cassell. Me, from 6 Mile and Gratiot. Okay? And Don Buchwald doesn't know what to do with me because I'm called a non-traditional actor. They're looking for people with long hair with a feather sticking out of it. I'm not kidding, my hand to God. Okay, so here I am. Then I go out on the streets and I live like a true method actor, like a true embedded journalist. That's when I realized that a lot of this stuff was bullshit. A lot of it was bunk, a lot of it was made up, these news stories. And I go back to Michigan and I saw one writ large. It's the Joey Boot Boy story where he faked like he had cancer and he stole all the money and fled. Meanwhile, everybody knows where this guy's at. Number one. Number two, the news media shows up and they're like, oh my God, did you see this? We gotta interview people. This is when I knew that, I don't want to pick on anybody anywhere, but I came up in Detroit. They're fake as fuck. That's when I knew it. And I said, wow, my book should be really great because everybody's so fake. I should be doing really well. Well, I have all my writing on Kindle and it doesn't move, it doesn't sell. I keep going. I'll be writing up the stories like LA 2039. It is a working title, right? And so just briefly, I'm combining a lot of narratives together so I can add stuff to this of stories that I wrote. And one of the stories that listen to this, guys. Listen to this. I don't even know what this movie's called. There's a new movie with Tom Hardy and he plays a Chicago motorcycle guy. The movie's just releasing now. So maybe they were editing it or they was taking it around to festivals. I wrote up my own version of Psychomania. I wrote a really good scene of the beginning of a motorcycle gang. And that's what it was about. It was about the beginning of it. It was about the beginning of like a mafia. They were going to be a mafia. They were going to be a mafia family. Okay? And I had this exact same narrative as at the exact same time. Now they released it. So now this is all 2 years ago. So they must have been editing this film. They must have wrapped and they were editing this film. And I had the same narrative, right, as one of my stories. And again, my stories are on Kindle, guys. You can look at it. I don't know why they put the big kiss off for $0. I've never gotten paid from Kindle. I've never gotten paid from Amazon. Okay, I was lucky to actually get paid for working there, and I worked there, and I was being harassed. and targeted. I don't know why people glom onto this. I think these people are trash and they're low IQ. They make things about race when it's convenient for them. Like I said, I've talked to lawyers about what was happening. The lawyer literally said, "Did you want to make it about race?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Is it about race?" You know, right? And I challenge these things like, what is it? What even is it? Right? Are there four root races? It's looking like there are. You're either Asian, you're Mesoamerican, Southern African, or Northern European. It's pretty simple, right? So what are Indian people, right? Indian people are darker than me. Aziz Ansari, right? Aziz Ansari, he seems to me like he identifies with the African American culture. You could see he does, right? That's his culture. That's what he identifies with, right? So I never identified with that. I identified with rock and roll culture, and there was all kinds of different people involved in rock and roll. And then I got on into oi punk, and unfortunately, these morons actually go around and they believe what they see on TV about Geraldo skins, right? First it was a Geraldo show, and then went into American History X. And then by then, it's over. It's over. Like I said, even the Offspring had, you know, these woods at their show and stuff like that. So whatever. I mean, again, it's just another form of group identifying. What group am I going to identify with? I would identify with my family if they would have me. They told me, "Gordon, get lost." So I did. I am out here in Los Angeles, and I'm a better man because of it. They 100% wanted me dead in 2017. And it was through this. They were destroying my sleep. They wanted me dead, and I believe it's connected to Disconnected Records. I do. Because I already put a dead guy on their cover. And the son of a newspaper reporter in Michigan used my likeness. And when did that article come out? 2018. They just kept fucking with me. They, meaning actual people that I knew. And I told you, one of the people involved is from the Trumbull House. There's a picture of the Trumbull House in one of my songs. I'm really sorry about yesterday's episode. I'll be playing songs, and I'll do an entire episode about each song, and I'll tell you about the scenes that I write up around each song. Okay, it's fairly interesting. So we have. Let's just kind of go over everything. Look at this. Look at my show. And I have hours and hours and hours. Right? Okay, this is LA 2039, Nucleaks, Dope Freaks, and 2 weeks until Meltdown, right? So there has to be a core meltdown, right? You have to have some impending doom. We're talking about LA 2039, right? This is a tentative title, right? I already told you the economy is going to crash in 2025. Michael Burry is betting on it, okay? And I would as well. And don't forget, I already called the earthquake, but it was supposed to be a lot bigger. It was only there's a small video of that on one of my channels. I can't remember which one. But anyway, so, okay. But again, with these predictions, like, is it really that hard to make a prediction? Okay, is it really that metaphysical to kind of be able to predict that everybody's going to get the mark of the beast when tattooing goes on? They could see people marking up their skin. They had tattoos back when they were writing the book of Revelation. And don't forget, we have to create our own cult to go into my property, Linoleum Blown Apart. I talk about Linoleum Blown Apart a lot, okay? But just to kind of get back to LA 2039, this is a story about a nuclear leak here in town, in LA, right? This is like a B-movie style, right? Like a, Canon video and like, right? which is stuff that I loved when I moved to New York in the 90s. And that's why I got in as an actor. Like, yeah, I wanted to be like a totally legit actor, but you got to fall in place wherever you fall in. And like I said, it's not my fault that the Don Buchwald agency didn't know what to do with me. There was no Vin Diesel, okay? There was no Jason Momoa, okay? And the only guys who look like me spoke Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I'm uniquely American, okay? And I'm not gonna deny that fact. It's just the way it is. I'm uniquely rock and roll, right? I'm not gonna deny that fact, okay? You can take a look at my playlist. You can see some of the songs that I like. I actually have songs under Linoleum Blown Apart. My band used to be called the Grievance Committee. And then in Ohio, they created a fake grievance committee. So disconnected records could steal the songs, put them up on Spotify, and if they sell, they would say, "Oh, it's the other grievance committee." And so this is part of an operation. The reason the way they did that was because this guy I called the Gerbil from Farmington Hills actually stole one of my songs, and he was bragging about that he sold it to Fox or whoever. Fox Sports or something like that. He stole one of my riffs, and the reason I can write these riffs is because I spent time doing it, and it was all I had. And I didn't have a father, I didn't have anyone I could relate with in my family, and I still don't. They've told me numerous times, Gordon, we can't relate with you. My mother actually allowed for a piece of trash skank, Lucrecio operative biker uh, to come in the house. And my mother, was thick as thieves with her, but whenever I would offer something or offer my services to help out, no, don't touch it, don't do anything. We don't, just nonstop. And this has been going on since what? Since I was a little peewee. Yeah, okay. I kind of get it. That's okay. I won't offer my help or my anything ever again, right? So this serves my power, right? So now my emotional power isn't going out to the car crashians or I call them the $100 Kardashians, right? So I have this notion that because of Shakespeare showed us that a witch's coven is 3 women. You have the witches of Eastwick, which are 3 women. You have Hocus Pocus, that are 3 women. Okay, so and then you have the character in The Matrix, which is called Trinity. That's Trinity. She has Hermes Trismegistus. She has 3 times the power. Okay, so right, what a lot of people don't understand is the Holy Ghost in the Holy Trinity was part feminine. It was supposed to be feminine. It was supposed to be like a Baphomet. Supposed to be like the Mona Lisa, both masculine and feminine, androgynous. I meant to say, right? Androgynous. So that's the power of the union coming back together. That's why we're split. That's why we want to come together with a lover and someone that you want to be with, a partner. I meant to say. Okay. That's the whole point. That's our driving, right? That's our sex drive, our libido drive, right? So it's not just about promiscuous sex, it's about this alchemical union between 2 people. And everybody knows that this is real. Anyone who's fell in love, that's why I don't have any respect for any old girlfriends anymore. You're not gonna run game on me, trash skank. There's plenty of other women out here. Okay? So, and that was the problem with me going back with my wife. I knew her in the 90s. Like I said, I was dating a woman who was a drug addict, a drug seller, and very promiscuous. I was dating my wife, and I was dating about 3 or 4 other women at the same time. And just living this hedonistic lifestyle, right? And then kind of figuring out that there's a lot of trans individuals giving blowjobs on the west side of town, right? And the Rolling Stones were actually singing about this. The Rolling Stones have a new song out, by the way, if anyone cares, right? Because times change and things change. And that's why I think my property that's known as Golden Years, I just saw a girl with David Bowie on her shirt just the other day, and I saw this couple, they had a dog named Bowie. Golden Years would have the Bowie song. It's a very simple narrative. I'm going over everything today. Yay. It's very simple. It's just the pilot episode, and that's all I write. I would write the treatment for the pilot episode. That's it. I'd like to get to work on it. I'd like to get in advance on, you know, I'd like to get set up somewhere in a Winnebago, anywhere. Look at this place. I got whiteboards and stuff like that. I mean, just, you gotta have four walls, and you gotta have direction in life. And now I finally do. And don't forget, I went through the same MK Ultra program as Whitey fucking Bulger. Yeah, they shot him up with so much LSD. He said he wanted to go back there and kill the people. And look what happened to him, right? He became ruthless. Look at me, man. I'm my mother's son. I'm still just just a good guy. This made me want to die. I just wanted to get off the goddamn Ferris wheel. Right here. So that's why I said with the rest of my life, I'm going to live in Los Angeles, and I'm going to attempt to, work on a television series, which is the penultimate. But I'm going to pitch some ideas just to show you I never run out of ideas. So if you want to go watch Sam Tripoli giggle about gay manatees who fucked each other to death, I mean, this is a total media deep blue story. Right? Don't forget, I call my wife the slope-shouldered manatee of a fuddy-duddy. Did you want me to call her Jean? Because I can dox her. I'll dox myself any day. My name's Gordon Douglas Ison, the real Gordon Ison. And also, while this was going on, Gordon Ison from across the pond, his sister's calling me on the phone. I have all these women calling me on the phone, and I'm losing my mind. And they're just fucking with me, and they think it's hilarious. Right? And people from the Trumbull house are involved in this. They knew all about it. They thought it was hilarious. And again, here I am. I'm swinging at the ropes. It's just like, is it my drummer? Is it my wife? Is it blah, 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 blah? It's all these motherfuckers. They know exactly what's going on. My wife knew and my drummer knew. So, and again, I've been deposed by lawyers. Okay? And I've already talked to lawyers. So, what's ultimately going to come of it? Oh, my wife was torturing me. It'll just become a meme and a joke. Well, go fuck yourself. How about that? So, how about that for a meme joke? Like I said, I was born in the BC era before computers. I try to develop relationships out here, right? And I'm not going to develop any relationship with some fucking targeter, some bureaucrat who's a LARPer, or any of these pieces of trash. Right? So what you want is a cohesive relationship, and I sought that with my family. No more. I already explained to you. That's why the Kardashians have so much power. They have the three sisters and the mother. Right? And what do they do to the men? They crush the men. They crush the men on the show. The brother, completely feckless, dating strippers. Guilty. Right? That's what I did. That's what I did around the time that I OD'd in Las Vegas. Dating escorts, dating strippers. I don't do that anymore. I took a vow to my father in the '04 era. So by Jove, this vow that I took actually beat this. Now, how do you like that? I'm not thanking my father. I don't have to thank him. I used him. I used him to create a willpower within me. And I knew that everything, all my arrests in Michigan were complete and utter setups. And that all these fucking Fed rats, pieces of trash, were coming through here, and they were coming through the Facebook app. Why? Because they were doing it from the time that I got home from off the road, where I found out that everything is a lie, and that the system works on entrapment, number one, Fed rats, number two, and copping a plea. So there'll never be any justice. So that whole trope is a lie. It's as simple as that. Cops are there to set you up, right? And again, I always talk about Seven, David Fincher. He actually just did a new film for Netflix. Of course, I would love to see it. But I think the assassin is played out. It's a played out narrative. But I'm sure I have complete and utter faith in him. I think he's one of the greatest film directors in a long time. But I have faith that he's going to reinvent it, right? Because he's just that smart, handy, and capable, right? But for the most part, I'm trying to create narratives to films because I'm a film guy. Don't forget, at the end of my block was Ramona Theater, and I saw Phantom of the Paradise. Something else I looked up. It was around the same time. Boy, I just looked it up to make sure that I had it for the show. Okay, so I'm seeing that, and these Tom Laughlin films and Jesus Christ Superstar when I'm 7, 8, and 9 years old. Right, so this is having this huge impact on me. And then they had Kiss Meets the Phantom, but I saw that on TV. I didn't see it at the theater because it was like maybe made for TV. Okay, so this music and this push to be involved in music was part of my whole life. And I was sitting there, it's in my book, Two-Legged Animal. It's like, I can't play. I didn't know scales. I didn't know anything. And then before you knew it, I heard, I think, TV Party on W4 Radio with Doug Podell on Sunday. If you're from Detroit, you'll understand. W4, that's where Howard Stern worked. Okay? And I heard TV Party. Now, before that, I liked Iggy Pop. I loved his song 5'1". And before that, what did I like? I loved novelty songs. Okay, I loved novelty songs. Okay? So, right, Napoleon the 14th, they're coming to take me away. Look at where we're at today. Right? So, right, that's my rich musical background. That's what I'm about. But again, when you're talking about, I don't really care about the film industry because I can hold my own. But when you're talking about music and stuff like that, it is just such favoritism, right? It's just such a the game is rigged. That's what I'm here to tell you, man. That's why, rap isn't part of my culture aside from that early, what do I call it? I called it conscious rap. That early conscious rap was part of but I kind of drifted out of that the more and more I got into alternative, music. That's what we called it. We called it alternative. And people like David Strouder, who's part Southern African as well. I'm not sure why that's such a big deal. People like Odell Nails, right? People like Laura Lee. She's the person I wrote Only Suicide about, but the lyrics are about my band. Right? You got to write about something. That's the same thing with the song. It's called The Drinker, Jimmy's song. I had to use the template of somebody's life, but I'm not really. The song is about an archetype, and I had to fill in because I was trying to be more like Tom Waits and tell these stories as a singer. So anyway, so let's get back to Nuke Leaks, Dope Freaks, and 2 Weeks Until Meltdown. Pretty simple narrative, okay? There's a Fukushima-style event, but the dope is going to get polluted, okay? And so the dope is like this Fenty that everybody's taking, but the dope is turning people into possibly serial killers, right? It's causing inauthentic behavior, right? So you could tell, right? So you have this aspect that's part, Simon Pegg's, Shaun of the Dead, right? That is really one of the greatest films of all time. I just got to be honest, man. Right? I just love Shaun of the Dead. It's so clever. All right, so you have this aspect. It just kind of comes out of the blue that this dope is polluted too, and then we also have the aspect of these animals. And once these animals get radiation sickness, what's going to happen to them? Look at Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear, Ray Liotta's last film, right? Okay, so, right, Um, I don't know if it was the last film he worked on, but it was one of his last films. Right? So the second one here is Social Media Murders Mark Fisher. And that's the template for Linoleum Blown Apart. Yeah, yes, I stick by that 100%. 100%. He is part of this inauthentic behavior. I believe this was so new to people that they didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. And when I didn't die, that's when the drummer put behavioral malware on a $2,000 computer. And that's why they were calling me Zoolander all these years. They can't wrap their mind around the fact that I am actually harder, smarter, better, faster than they'll ever be. I say it on my show all the time. I'll confront any of these people right here on my show. That's why my show is more interesting than anybody's. That's why I don't really give a shit about, Conspiracy Corner, right? Because with Coco Pro, the counter conspiracy program, we have to give this up. And we have to call it what it is. It's your schizophrenic future. It's the schizophrenic information coming at you. So you have to decide what you're going to emotionally invest in. You have to make that decision, right? And I'm not going to emotionally invest in any of these media deep blue stories anymore. I'm just not. I'm going to put my time and effort into writing my stories and putting them on Kindle, right? Because I know that there's going to be a huge financial reset, and that is coming in 2025. So they already had the vice president, I can't remember her name. She's changed her hairstyle, okay? And I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. Take a look at the death of Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper and Richie Valens, right? So the plane went down. The Beatles were already a band. Now, they didn't break in the United States until after JFK was murdered, I believe. 63, somewhere around there. 64 was their big, okay? So that's still about 3 or 4 years, right? But is it just a coincidence? Is it a synchronicity? Is it an unhappy accident, right? I talked about the moon landings before, okay? When you're doing a project of this magnitude, and don't forget that Stanley Kubrick did work with NASA, it's very well known, right? That he used a lens for candlelight during Barry Lyndon. Oh, I got it from NASA. This was the, right? So he did work with it, right? So I'm not saying that there's a there, but, excuse me, what I'm saying, burp alert, is that there is enough coverage to actually foment a false that we never went to the moon. You understand? They could create this false narrative out of all of this coverage that they got, where they're dropping things and messing things up, because you actually have to do it in a test area. You have to test everything out. And they're not only testing it out, but they're filming it. Okay? And they're doing this all while the Vietnam War is going on. I mean, look at the operation that is the Vietnam War. You have the Phoenix program and you have Operation Popeye. What's Operation Popeye? It's like the rain's coming at us sideways. It's climate control, right? Weather creation, weather modification it's called. And the Phoenix program, which is what? Creating the serial killers, right? And so then that went into Taxi Driver, right? This whole, and then Taxi Driver takes us into what? Jodie Foster's Army, 1980. And I already showed you what an operation that was. Take a look at these two mopes, John Hinckley Jr. and Mark David Chapman. I'll talk about it every single show. This was an operation. And if John Lennon, it could be corroborated that he actually was smuggling drugs. Well, take a look at who John Lennon was hanging out with. 10 for 2, John Sinclair and the MC5 right in Detroit. There is a Detroit connection there. John Sinclair, 10 for 2, he's singing about a Maximum Bob. Who wrote about a Maximum Bob? Elmore Leonard. Maximum Bob. Why is Woody Harrelson's dad in prison? Because of a Maximum John. Maximum John, he was giving away maximum sentences for bullshit crimes. And somebody murdered him. This is the scuttlebutt. And allegedly, Woody Harrelson's dad went to go collect the money. And then that's when they busted him. But he might have set it up and had somebody else do the job. And he was going to split the money, whatever. But they ended up snaggling him. Okay? So, that's the scuttlebutt. You know, you can look into this stuff yourself. I have an interactive show. You can take me to task on anything. You don't have to, giggle behind your hand at some media deep blue story, right? You can leave a comment, right? I got people LARPing me. I got strange behaviors going on when the fact was the strangest behavior for me was down in Florida. I don't know what was going on, and I was scared to death, and I was supposed to die. And when I didn't, I went back home to my loving parents, and I'll forever be grateful. And then my drummer put this motherfucking malware on my car, on my computer, and he ran like the bitch and coward that he is. And I had to make a decision. Not one person was on my side. Don't forget, when I was 5 years old, I was sent home from the hospital in Michigan. What happened? 35 years later, 40 years later, they're telling me I got a CAT scan because of what was happening with this, and they told me we don't have any record of you ever being here. I'm talking about the recurrence, guys. Do you see this? Yeah, that's my real life story. So when it came time for me, and they ran game on me at some warehouse job, I've had 1,000,001 warehouse jobs, guys. I'm a professional driver, I'm Class A. I've had numerous jobs like this, right? So giving it up wasn't some big like, oh my God, you're giving up a career. And I had a chance to drive out here, I jumped on it. And here I am. And I'm doing exactly what I want to do with my life within the means that I have to do it, which isn't much. I'll tell you that. My wife fucked up. You got a good guy willing to fucking work his ass off and not really care about money and just, right? You can't get any better than that. And here she was, involved in the sabotage the entire time. I'm working on job sites, I'm crying. I can't get out of the vehicle because this is crippling me. This is how bad it was. I'm crippled. I can't move. And the same son of a newspaper reporter who used my likeness in 2018 to try to rattle me from Royal Oak, Michigan. Anyway. You know, they're just like running game, like nonstop. And, you know, these Woods think they're different from the Bloods. They're no different. They're both complete morons. And in order for you to do something like that, you know, is unconscionable. And that's why my drummer, he not only ran like a bitch, but that's what I was saying. Like he works with these guys. He's the one who told me about Disconnected Records. How the fuck would I ever know? And he told me about him in 2004. And, you know, whatever. I just move on with my life. And so by the time I had figured this all out, I go, well, I have to get my 120 days. And then I did. I got my 120 days. All I really needed was like 60 or 90 days, whatever, clean and sober. Because in case you don't know, the guy at work in the suburb right next to where my drummer, who put the behavioral malware on my computer, who was down in Florida running Q-ops, the guy asked me to get him drugs, is right there. And he's also bragging that he knows police officers. And when he said that and they started using the N-word on that job site, I knew something was up. And I said, okay, I'll get you drugs. Because I know how to use drugs. Was I using drugs? Yeah, sure. So I did a little yay on the weekend, so right? Like I said before, I had a little bud of weed. Oh my God, it lasted me like 3 days. I couldn't even smoke it. Like, I could only smoke like the top part one day, the middle, like this big, like it's less than a gram, like of weed. I can't smoke anymore. Like, I can't do that anymore, right? And when I was in Detroit, if I did a little bit of yay on the weekends, that was my business. I was kind of seeing like, what? Why is this guy asking me to get fucking drugs? That doesn't make any sense. When he started acting funny, they were all working together to set me up once again. And then they got my drummer to come in just like he did down in Florida. Gordon Zoolander, he's never going to figure it out. And then I got guys at the Trumbull House. Oh, yeah, there's going to be Trumbull. There's going to be a rumble and trouble. Trumbull. Yeah. Guys that I knew, guys that I came up with involved in this. Deny Gordon sleep and he'll kill himself. Let's laugh about it. And my wife as well. So I talk about it every show. You can all go rot in hell. And I'll see you there. Because I'll be there waiting for you. Make no mistake about it. So again, I'm not Whitey fucking Bulger. And I'm sure as shit not Ted Kaczynski. And I'm not trying to get over on anybody. What I'm trying to do is my life's work. And what I'd like to do would be to work on one of these projects that I talk about. My projects are right on Kindle. You can buy them. You could support the show that way. I'm not asking you for any money. I live off the EBT menu. It's pretty rough. It's not nice. And I had to figure out like where to go for free meals and stuff around town. And so far people are really nice in this area. Of course I have people still trying to run game on me and all that stuff, but for the most part, I don't care about being canceled. Okay? I don't care about being canceled. Right? So we have Walter as the nutty professor. So again, the template is Mark Fisher, and it just means that he has self-harm tendencies. Nobody is talking about this. Nobody is talking about what we're accelerating into, just to kind of get back to today. Okay, everybody's laughing at these media deep blue stories. Everybody's okay. Yeah, we just had to reconnect. So I just during that time, I'm looking at these media deep blue stories, right? Okay, look at all this, man. Look at today's stories. Look at this. Look, it just almost never ends. Look at it all, guys. Okay? What am I going to emotionally get invested in here? What am I going to emotionally get invested in? It is unnatural emotional investment in your spinal fluid coming from this device. Okay? So, Danny Masterson is looking at 30 years in prison. I remember in the 1990s in New York, there was a revision of the 1970s. They had something called Wigstock. So that's how that 70s show was created. It was called Retro in the 1990s, right? They had a retro revival. They had Wigstock, and they had a lot of people dressing like the 1970s in the 90s. Excuse me. So again, this is my era. This is what I like to talk about. I'll be going back to the narrative of Linoleum Blown Apart, probably on the next show, unless something comes up. Don't forget that Operation Bluebird turned into the MK Ultra program, which means mind control. And the Bluebird that's being used is the Bluebird on Twitter. It's now called X. Okay? You are satiated through the AI that's connected to this. And that's why you're in this confirmation bias. And so you could be indoctrinated on the left or the right. You could be indoctrinated by anything. According to the Brookings Institution, which is right in my playlist, right? You have to listen to what they say, and you have to extract this information from these people. They're not going to hand it to you on the platter. What they're handing you, they meaning those involved, they're handing you this on a platter. Here you go. Here's a big distraction. Well, after what happened with my wife, and I'm being harassed by someone from Punk Pirate Press, sounds like public-private partnership, some phony, again, a Fed rat, again, talking about Illinois Nazis, again, talking about all the same shit over and over again. They actually believe these lies. They believe these tropes, and they use it to try to, you know, push people around. That's what they want to do. I've been bullied since I was a little kid. Now all your bullying comes here. That's why they want it out of the schools. Because this is where your bullying is. And I explained to you how the system works. You cop a plea. Okay? You can't fight anything. So again, your subjective truth will never prevail. So what's the point? I'm trying to go beyond being black-pilled and running around threatening to sue somebody. Because ultimately, I'm just happy to be alive. And I want love, and I want friends, and I want family. But unfortunately, I'm stuck with all of you. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.